Okay, today we are talking about the SEC going absolutely crazy and suing all cryptocurrency exchanges,
You, me, everybody's ass around here. Him?
including Coinbase,
Kraken.
Kraken, Bittrex, Binance for a whole list of stuff. Binance, I'll say, is okay.
Yeah, the SEC has been very busy this year.
Yeah. So they're basically suing all of these exchanges for being unregistered securities exchanges, broker dealers, and clearing agents.
Correct. And then a few of them are also being sued for some other reasons like commingling of customer funds, Binance for some money laundering.
Naughty, naughty.
Why don't we start with the main one, which is being an unregistered securities um, exchange, broker, dealer, and clearing agent. Do you know what those are?
Yeah, so security exchange, I think that still stems from the Howey test. So how they decide if something is a security, and then if it is a security, you have to obviously register with the SEC, which is the Securities and Exchange Commission. Register with them, and then you can proceed with your trading and whatnot. But now I think that just becomes a bit difficult into what is a security and what is not a security.
Yeah, so just oversight. Basically, you have the CFTC, which is a Commodities Futures Trading Commission, and the SEC, which is the Securities Exchange Commission. So you've got these two regulators, and the SEC is saying essentially that everything other than Bitcoin should be deemed a security, and these exchanges should be registered as securities exchanges. Um,
Oh, okay. And then if it's not, then it falls part of the CFTC.
yeah, then it's a commodity. Then it's like less
Okay.
stringent rules.
Just on that then, so all of the companies now that haven't registered as like trading securities with the SEC, are they registered with the CFTC or isn't there?
Yeah, I think they've got, but it's not as stringent.
Okay, all right, cool. Okay, all right. So let's get into it then.
Yeah, so the main question then is what is a security and how has this SEC just decided all of a sudden that everything other than Bitcoin and I think Ethereum they've kind of also conceded are securities. Do you know what the test is to determine if something is a
Yeah.
security?
Okay. So the test is that Howey test, right? So developed in 1933, 1934, which is the SEC versus Howey, regarding some plantation
It
that
was
he
an
was.
orange farm or
Yeah,
something.
orange
Yeah,
farm
yeah.
that he was selling. Essentially, he was selling the land and he was telling the investors, I will develop the fruit, like I will do all the work, and then we sort of split the profits, right? And that's kind of where all of this came about. So the Howey test kind of covers four questions. Essentially, is there an investment of money? Does it is it into a common enterprise with the expectation of profit, where the effort is derived from the efforts of others?
Yeah. So those four, each one of the, every one of those four prongs need to
Criteria.
be met in order for it to be a security.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
so let's say for instance Bitcoin, right? Let's apply the test. An investment of money. If you invest in Bitcoin, you spend money to get that Bitcoin. That's
Correct.
done. In a common enterprise. Now there is no common enterprise business called Bitcoin. There is no company called Bitcoin. So there's no common enterprise. So that would not be met.
Correct.
So there's no central person that you're investing in to make you more money with the expectation of profit. This is
Correct.
just you're buying this commodity, this asset, because you think it's going to go up in value and whatever other use cases it has in the future. Like who knows if it's going to be used as a currency or whatever.
Correct. I think Bitcoin also has become so sufficiently decentralized, and its only purpose is more so currency as opposed to any sort of other functionality. Where like Ethereum builds a lot of functionality on top of it. So I think that sort of starts to complicate them a lot more.
Yeah, yeah. So Bitcoin is quite a straightforward one. No one fights about that. Then we've got Ethereum, which now starts to get a little bit more complicated because on top of that, we know who founded Ethereum. So Vitalik Buterin, if he says something about the network, it kind of carries a lot of weight, and he could probably get things to go a certain way because he's got that much influence in the space. But then again, it is sufficiently decentralized that he can't force anything to happen.
Yeah, I think he just has like a good influence on the community, but it is sufficiently decentralized that there is no one entity that can influence everything.
Yeah.
Correct.
And also another thing about the securities is that when you actually do become a registered security and you're like a company, there are a lot of, so I know this because I did auditing, there are a lot of compliance and disclosure stuff that you need to do. Now, when you get to a point of being like Ethereum, who are you going to force? Who is the SEC going to force to say, look, you have to disclose this to the investors and stuff? You have to give these reports and this information. Like, who's going to do that? Because it's a decentralized
Oh,
system.
that's on that point. Then, is there anyone who has sort of successfully registered as a security exchange and
No.
gotten any of this information out?
So not Binance, Coinbase has been trying. So they've actually filed a petition against the SEC, a formal petition saying, we've come to you. They've actually obtained a broker-dealer license for securities, but it's dormant. They've gone to them saying, we would like to activate this. They have not gotten any response, no help. They want to start registering crypto securities because you have crypto commodities and crypto securities. They want to start registering crypto securities because for them it's also a lot more business. They apparently reject more than 90% of
correct.
the projects that come to them because they're not securities. So
Not commodities, you mean?
so while the chair of the SEC, Gary Gensler, keeps saying, come in, register, and do it like that, they've tried to do this, but then the SEC just doesn't play ball. They don't respond.
Yeah, I actually read somewhere in an article that what the US is actually trying to do is they don't want they think that they can't really ban crypto officially, so they're gonna make it so difficult and actually impossible to regulate that it just in itself can't take off because it's impossible to meet the criteria to get started.
Yeah.
So instead of formally banning it, they're just gonna set a set of rules that are impossible to meet. That it in itself it dies.
Yeah, I mean, look at what happened with Coinbase back in Feb. They were sued by the SEC. Basically, what they did is they offered staking services to their investors. So what staking is basically in Ethereum, you have validator nodes, just like validator computers. You stake your Ethereum and it allows the system to run. And for that, you get yield. So you generate more tokens. It earns tokens and it gives it to you. So Coinbase offered a staking service whereby the investors could stake their Ethereum and earn more and other tokens as well. Now, the SEC sued Coinbase for this, saying that it's a security because now it's an investment, blah, blah, blah. They need to shut it down and pay a fine of $30 million. Now, Coinbase just decided, Kraken, not Coinbase. Kraken decided to pay this and shut it down. And the SEC says this was a great win for investors and we did a good job. But really now the investors have no place to go and stake their cryptocurrencies.
Well, in America, they have no place.
Yeah. But or at least a more regulated place. Now they have to go find back alleyways to do it, which is probably more unsafe. So the SEC is regulating it out of the US. They're not doing anything to facilitate and help it grow in the US.
Yeah, and help it grow in a safe way, right? That people can. Why do you think that is? Like, why is the US actually making this so difficult? Like, why does it almost look like they're not trying to make it succeed? What are your thoughts on that?
Maybe it's the banks have so much influence there. Look at what Jamie Dimon said about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. And the government officials probably don't want it because it is an alternative financial system. In its
Correct.
own.
It gives them less control, and I understand trying to minimize it before it's out, but this is not something that if they don't offer it in the States, people won't use it. People will just transfer their money into other countries and get it done that way. Like, people are not going to not get into Bitcoin because the regulation in the US is difficult. They will send their money out and do it that way. So the US also loses a lot in terms of taxation that they can benefit from, right? Companies like Coinbase still get taxed on their fees, and their trading volumes are billions, right?
Yeah.
Monthly is in the billions.
Look at Europe. They've got a whole cryptocurrency framework called MiCA, and Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Middle East, they're all accelerating it and they're welcoming cryptocurrency firms.
Correct. So the money will go. Like, The
Yeah, I
money is
mean, a
going to
lot
be
of
traded. So it's
cryptocurrencies
either
are.
in the US or it's outside of the US.
Yeah. Gary Gensler just doesn't like crypto, and he's the chair of the SEC. And I think a lot of the think about it also, the government officials are generally older people, and the older generation doesn't understand cryptocurrency, and they do think it's a scam.
That's true. And then also like the younger people that do understand it well enough, they won't be part of the SEC at this point. If you're young and you're actually that good at the crypto, like at understanding blockchain and
The crypto.
at the crypto, if you're like that young and you understand the technology, chances are you're not opting to work for the SEC and earn like that low salary. You're probably joining some sort of crypto startup, and you're going that route. So I think probably the majority of the people in the SEC just don't really understand it
Yeah.
very well.
That's a good point, because I actually watched an interview with Gary Gensler where he said what they need now is more people to come to the SEC to work in that division, because at the moment they've got the same number of employees as they've had in 2016. But the amount of work that's gone
Correct.
into cryptocurrency firms and all of that has probably like 10x since
Yeah,
then.
yeah, definitely. Okay, so interesting. What do you think the outcome is going to be now?
So I think there's two ways this can go. So either Congress needs to step in and draft new legislation, so on how these crypto assets are going to be treated.
Would that be the job of Congress now? So
Yeah.
so
So that's
new regulation wouldn't be the SEC. That'll be Congress that draws it up, and then whatever the regulation is, the SEC will just have to follow that.
yeah. So the way I see it is the SEC is like the watchdog that like has the laws, and then they interpret it, and then they rule it. So essentially, what they should be doing, if they were doing this in the right way, they would allow these companies to come to them. So, for instance, Coinbase, they're deciding what is a crypto commodity and what is a crypto security. They've developed an internal framework to test things to say, okay, this is kind of commodity, this is security, because it's always on a spectrum,
Yeah.
right? And they've actually sent this to the SEC
Oh,
saying,
wow.
look, this is how we're approaching it. We'd like your feedback. Please tell us if you think this is more of a security or this is a commodity. Like, let's
Frequently,
discuss.
like, there's
Yeah.
traces of
That's
this.
why there's a formal petition out against
Oh,
the
okay,
SEC,
wow.
because they've been doing this. So the SEC is not like going through it. Like, this is a new technology. It doesn't fit in any one box. They should be discussing it and trying to come up with a solution. But the SEC is just quiet.
Yeah. And from what I see also from like Brian Armstrong, he's not a guy who's like, let's say, testosterone build and wanting to just fight everyone. Like, he really is someone who just wants peaceful regulation and like way moving forward.
Yeah.
So I can definitely believe that.
Yeah.
Have you had a look at that that framework? Is it public or?
I had a quick read through. It's interesting. It basically just says all the attempts that they've done to get more feedback from the SEC. Because now the SEC just comes out all of a sudden with litigation.
No. But what I mean is the actual framework out of how they decided.
I couldn't find that.
Couldn't find that. Yeah, that would be interesting to see how they
But
went
apparently, it's a like stack of papers for each project that comes in. So
and like how they interpret the Howey thing and whether they agree or disagree with their reasoning. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I'd love to actually see that. Let's see if we can get our hands on it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess we'll see how it turns out. They're going to go to court now and fight the SEC. So yeah, either Congress steps in and creates a new framework, new legislation, or they go to court and they get more case law. So for instance, this XRP SEC case, whatever comes from that will be case law, and then that will set a precedent for some similar projects so that they have more to work on.
So either way, we get some sort of progression, like in whatever form or way that comes. Just going back a step now. So whatever the outcome is, do we see that the US is going to ease up on their regulation, or do you think it's going to get stricter and it's just going to drive investors into Europe, Asia, the UAE?
There's actually a new bill that was drafted by Elizabeth Warren. She's a senator, very anti-crypto. So like everyone's saying, you cannot accept this. We cannot like let this go forward. I would say the regulators are controlled by the banks. It's not in the banks' interest to allow crypto to thrive. So they really want to try and stop it.
Is okay? And what about the European banks and all of that? Why are they not doing the same, following suit?
It's a good question.
Not sure.
I think they also want to attract the talent, right? So like the US has attracted the talent for the longest time, Silicon Valley. Now,
Oh, yeah.
Middle East, Europe, they've been losing talent. So they would probably say, look, we are for this. We would like, and also like you can find a way to make it work for you. You can tax it. You can, essentially, cryptocurrencies are not a scam. They are on-chain. All information is public. There's talk about terrorist financing. It's not easy. Everything on Bitcoin
Is
is
traceable.
traceable.
Yeah.
Everything is traceable. So it's a big misconception.
Yeah,
The US dollar is
I
still
think
the
when they
biggest thing
understand it better and they start understanding how they can do traceability and know your customer, all of that, then it really does become a lot easier actually to regulate. And it'll give them a little bit more control as well.
Yeah. So I guess we'll have to see how it turns out.
Yeah, I'm excited. We'll probably release another episode as soon as like more more comes out of the courts. Awesome.
Keep you updated.